Welcome to the Alaska Realtor livestream. My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate broker in Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And the purpose of this live stream is to really show you guys what it's like living up here in Alaska, and doing so by bringing people onto the live stream to talk about their experiences of living up here. So you get to hear from people who aren't just me talking about what it's like living up here in Alaska. And today we're very lucky to be joined by Sean and Erica. They recently moved up here to Alaska and successfully came through the first winter at Eagle River. So we're going to be talking about what their experience has been so far, and let you guys go ahead and ask any questions that you want of them. Before we get started, though, one thing to keep in mind is these live streams are only as good as the questions that we have coming in. So if you do have any questions, concerns, anything like that, don't hesitate. If you're thinking it, chances are there's at least 4, 5, 10 X people, not just now, but in the future, they're going to be watching this that are also thinking the same thing. So do not be shy. Throw your questions in there and make sure your voice is heard. All right, without further ado, Sean, Erica, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yep, absolutely. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this then. So question number one, what got you guys thinking about moving to Alaska in the first place?
So I actually, ever since we got together, I've always wanted to live in Alaska. When I was younger, my family moved us to South Carolina from Oregon, and I just didn't want to be in the heat anymore. And so I wanted to be back with the mountains, and just Alaska just sounded really cool, someplace I've never been, and it was always a bucket list. And I think for the past 3 or so years, I was constantly just sending houses, and then he got a job offer, and I said, let's jump.
Man, sounds like you did not need a whole lot of persuading.
I did not. I don't know about him, but
no, I didn't really.
So did you guys get a chance to come up and visit here before you decided to make the leap?
We had plans to. This was, 3 years ago now. Then COVID happened. We had plans to come up, and we were looking at different options. We were thinking about maybe renting a camper and maybe exploring some of the different towns or doing one of the cruises, but it didn't work out because of COVID. Everything was shut down. So unfortunately, we had to just move up cold turkey.
Yeah, those were wild days. And I know some of you in the stream right now are went through that yourself. But yeah, it was chaos there for a while trying to figure out how to move up here during COVID.
Oh yeah,
absolute madness. All right, so let's see how quickly. So once you guys decided you wanted to kind of make it happen, sounds like it was all kind of just hinging upon that job offer coming in. Once you had the job offer accepted and everything, like how quickly were you guys able to make that transition?
So we actually pushed it out a couple months. I think the job offer came in like September or October.
And they wanted me November, but I was like, that can't happen. I need a little more time. So from September to we were here January 24th. So that's like 3 months.
Yep. And I think we officially left North Carolina in January 14th was our last day there. So, and then that's when we officially started making the transition. But it took a couple months. I wish we had probably a little bit longer.
It was a bit frantic.
Yeah. Because you guys were not just moving in; you were moving in from like almost as far away as you could get.
Right. We had just amassed a lot of things that I didn't even know we had so much stuff, and so we needed to get rid of things. But it was a lot of hand-me-downs. It was our first house that we got in North Carolina, so we had ended up getting a lot of hand-me-down things that we had squirreled away in the attic and everywhere else, and it was like, oh, what are we going to do with all this stuff? It was pretty frantic, but it all worked out pretty well once we just whittle away at it a little bit every day, and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you guys were moving up here, remind me, did you guys use the Alaskan? Did you just get a moving company? How did you get all your stuff here?
So she was working remotely. so she flew to Oregon and stayed with one of her friends in Oregon and was able to work. And I had already given my job notice. I was out, and so I drove. I had I had a little beer car. I had sold that, bought a truck, and I packed all the things that we needed to have for the first little while. Clothes,
Kitchen stuff.
some kitchen utensils, just all the basic things that you need. I packed and basically made my truck a moving vehicle, and I drove that all the way to Seattle, and then I put it on a barge and had it sent up. It took a while to get here. I didn't expect that. I thought it would be a lot quicker, but I think it ended up taking it about a month. There was a big jam up in Whittier. So I don't know if that would be ideal for everybody. If somebody if you've got things that really need to be there with you, the barge might not be the best idea.
Yeah, but we sold just about everything, and so it was a huge decision. Do we get a moving company and have them ship everything, or do we just start completely over? And I think one of the biggest deciding factors for us is ever since we moved in together, everything's been kind of hand-me-down. Nothing's ever been like ours, or we never really got to build it ourselves. So we sold everything, and stuff that was really sentimental we put in a storage unit until we were able to go back and then ship everything. So which wasn't a lot. It was like a small, like if you think of one of those little moving pods, it was probably one of those worth of stuff.
Yeah. So just not a whole lot, but sounds like you guys definitely did consolidate down.
A lot.
But
I definitely recommend that. Sell everything you can sell.
yeah, I mean, I've said it before, but yeah, when I came up, it was like 2 checked bags and a carry-on. So most people are not in a position to do that, though.
Right.
All right,
That
so
would be
we've
ideal, though.
got some questions rolling in here already. So let's knock these out of the park. So coming in from Michael Donovan, what do you wish you brought with you from home that you miss?
Probably some of my tools. I can't think offhand, but I ended up getting rid of quite a few tools that I might have wished I'd have kept my hands on. 'Cause, it ended up being a little bit easier to ship via air cargo than I had anticipated. So with that in mind, some of the more expensive tools like my drill press, had a really nice weed eater, things like that, I probably would have held on to. What about you?
Me, the way I decorated the home, there's a lot of pieces that in this house I really wish I had because it'd be perfect in that spot, and I can't get them anymore. So there's just some decorative pieces, and then I think I over purged the kitchen, so now I'm like, I have this item, where's it at? I was like, oh yeah, I put it in a box and Goodwilled it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you're going to find quite a bit of items like that too, where it's like, I wish I'd helped. Like, okay, yeah, actually, just before like we got onto the live stream, I was going back looking at like my old, Facebook post from when I was selling stuff when I moved up here, and I was looking at it. I was like, oh man, I really miss that tiny little, like a tiny little beanie bag, like bamboo baboon thing back in the day. Like, I really wish I had that. I wonder if I can find that somewhere online. So yeah, you're gonna find little things like that just even years out.
And then another one would be if they made these things easy to ship, we probably would have kept it, but unfortunately they break when you move them. It was our hot tub. Definitely missed the hot tub.
Yeah, we missed that. That probably is the thing we missed the most.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, just got mine installed in the winter time or right around the beginning of the winter. And yeah, we'll talk. I'm sure we can compare notes and all that. But I didn't realize you had to become like an amateur chemist to like make it work.
It gets easier.
Okay, that makes me feel better. So, a question here from Monica: what was the name of the shipping company? So,
Alaska Air Cargo we used.
And then the barge was Linden.
Linden for the barge, yes. And both were very easy process. That's actually something that I wish I was a little more reassured of in the beginning of how easy it was, because in my mind I was thinking of all the things that could go wrong, and what if they don't take this? What if it's too much? It worked just like the website said. They lay out some things that you can and can't. I think ammunition they wouldn't allow you to take on the barge, and then anything going air cargo can't have lithium batteries in it, but they're very open on their website about what you can and can't take, and then you get there and it's just a very easy, simple process.
Some of the battery things, because like with some of the outside tools that we have, they said as long as you tape up the ends of the battery, that's one way you can get around that. So some of this stuff was just a little weird, but
definitely worth calling ahead and finding out. But I found both Linden and Alaska Air Cargo's website to be pretty well laid out. They answer most questions on there.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So did you have any issues with, because I know like the ferry right now, there are issues with them not going all the way up to like Whittier or really any locations they're docking. I can't remember the name of the town. I know it's bad. I think it's like Ketchikan or something like that, but you have to stop and then you have to take the road, but it takes you through Canada anyway. So I'm assuming the barging companies probably aren't running into any issues like that, are they?
Not that I know of. I didn't. I guess because you can ride on the barge. I didn't. I flew up after I put my truck on. But I know there was a lot of trouble. I think that was back when there was something going on in Whittier at the time, and that's where it ended up. They unloaded in Whittier, and I believe they loaded up the truck on a cargo truck and took it into Anchorage. I don't think the barge ever went into Anchorage. I don't know about them stopping in towns along the way. They may. That might have been part of why it took a while.
Yeah, because it was only supposed to take a couple weeks, and it ended up taking almost.
I think it was about a month. Yeah.
Yeah, a little over a month.
But that could be not normal.
Yeah.
That might not be standard.
Yeah, but also that also does sound pretty in line with my previous experiences working with people who've moved up here, where they're like, yeah, it took way longer than scheduled. So maybe just whatever amount of time they give you, like just assume it's going to be double that.
Right. That would be safe to say. Just don't put anything on there that you have to have immediately.
Absolutely. All right. Another question here from Monica. Having a debate. So do you guys prefer the 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive? And you also have studded tires. And what do you guys find to be the most helpful?
So I've had both. Right now I've got a Ram 1500 4-wheel drive, but I have all terrains on there, which aren't great at all for these kinds of conditions up here. I need to get some better winter tires. I haven't yet. I will next year for sure. But the truck on 4-wheel drive did pretty good. I found the plows to be pretty timely, and by the time everybody drives on the Glen, it packs everything down to the point where I didn't really have much trouble in the Ram. But I did have a Buick that was all-wheel drive, or no, it was front-wheel drive with studded tires, and that did fantastic, as long as it wasn't the day after that, like 6 feet of snow we got in like 3 days. That I didn't drive the car during that time, but I found the whole rest of the winter I didn't have any trouble in front-wheel drive with studded tires.
Yeah, welcome to Alaska. Like that was one of the biggest snow dumps we've had in decades. So
all at once.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I'd say for me, so I got around just fine for years with a Honda Civic hybrid, front wheel drive, and all season tires, not even studded. So I was able to get around just fine. That being said, I had to pick my battles very, very carefully in the wintertime. So it can be done. If you got all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, I mean, that's preferable, but it's not the end of the world if that's not what you got. I drive a Prius now, too, if that gives you any idea for the amount of horsepower you need to get on the roads. All right, a couple questions real quick here from Chris. So any pets? Did you guys have any pets come along?
Yeah, we've got 2 cats. We got kind of a funny story about that. We had done all this logistical planning, and we contacted the airline we're going to be flying with, and the plan was since Erica was going to Oregon, the plan was for her to just fly with both cats, one in cargo and one in her lap, to Oregon, and then that's where the cats would be, because I had to drive across the country with a truck laden with stuff. And then we got to the airport, and that was not so. Things had changed.
And they changed only because I was supposed to be flying Alaska Air, to the West Coast from North Carolina, but by the time I got there, my flight had got canceled, moved up, and then switched to a different airline, which is where that problem occurred. They had different rules with the temperatures with the pets being in cargo. So
they all the airlines have their own little weird stuff. So that's definitely something to maybe double check into, because we did do the groundwork and then things were different. So I had to drive a cat across the country, which I wasn't planning on, and it really kind of threw a wrench into things. I had to find pet-friendly hotels, which really narrowed down my options when I was stopping for places to rest, and wasn't the greatest, but it was doable for sure. I think you can get your pets shipped up, but I think it's pretty expensive to do that.
It is, but also the temperatures have to be.
Well, no, you can get services that will ship your pet, but you pay a lot for that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's really what I remembered. I remember putting one of my dog of mine on the plane and sending it up before. And I mean, it was in like College Station, Texas. So it's pretty warm over there. So very difficult to find like just that perfect time where like the flight would only leave like around noon or so. But it also couldn't be any hotter than like, I think it was like 91 or something like that. So yeah, we really had to thread the needle on that one. We had to go back like 2 or 3 times to finally get like the perfect combination there.
Yeah, flying with the little one like up front in the cabin with me was great and was super easy. And then he was already like probably 20 minutes into his drive, and I had to call him like, you got to come back to the airport. And I'm like, but I'm giving you our oldest cat because he loves being in the vehicle anyways. So he's not going to scream the whole time.
I wanted a peaceful, easy drive, and it was not that way. But
not getting your NPR ride all the way across the country, huh?
No, it wasn't in the cards.
All right. So, a quick question coming in here from Brandon: is the snow melting there now?
Yeah, we can finally see our backyard, and we have little patches out front, maybe about half the front yard and probably 3/4 of the backyard's all melted and good to go now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely melting, but I was in Eagle River the other morning, and I was not a fan of that big snow dump that suddenly showed up in May. Like, not pleased at all.
Yeah, it snowed like crazy yesterday for hours.
Yeah, I got told that whenever I left to go on my trip, because it was nice and it was warming up and everything, and he said as soon as I left, it was snowing or raining every day I was gone. He's like, you left and the cold came back.
Yeah, I felt like we'd finally climbed into like the very low 50s, and then all of a sudden I look outside and it's snowing. Not there yet.
It's such a soul crusher because I mean you're so ready for like winter. I mean the winter activities are done. Like we don't have enough snow for that. It's not cold enough, so we can't really do the winter activities. But we can't do summer stuff yet either. So it's like this weird,
in between,
hateful middle ground that nobody likes.
Yeah, the transition seasons are my least favorite seasons for sure.
Yep, absolutely. All right, got another quick question coming in here from, where is it? There we go, coming in from Michael. So how often have you run into moose and bears in town? He's been seeing reports of moose going into City Hall to pay bills and running down walkers on the sidewalks.
That's no lie. I think recently didn't regional hospital have a moose just walk right in?
And a movie theater.
I heard. So yeah, you see them all the time. That's kind of one of my favorite things about being up here. I love seeing wildlife, and there's just wildlife everywhere. And yeah, we probably see moose.
They're always in the backyard. And
probably at least a few times a month. You'll see usually when we're driving into town, we'll see one off near the base. They're along the fence line, and sometimes they'll just walk right in the middle of the road when you're driving in town.
Haven't seen any bear yet. Not
yeah, we haven't seen any bear. That's true.
The reports are just from where they're being seen are right down the road. So they're not far, but we just haven't seen them yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys kind of, it's probably just a matter of time till you at least see a black bear, especially there in Eagle River. So Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, Eagle River is right up against the Chugach State Park, and so there's about 50 square miles of land where you can't really, actively go bear hunting, and so that whole area has just got all these bears just populating that little area there. The only time I've actually run into a bear was when I was running through Eagle River, like one of the residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see some here because I have a buddy at work who lives 2 minutes up the road, and he had a black bear near his trash cans earlier last year. So I'm sure now that we're here, we'll hopefully see some.
Made sure to spend the extra $5 a month to get the bear-proof trash cans.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the bear wants to get in, it's going to get in. So
Right.
I might save the money.
We want to give them a challenge, though. I don't want to make it too easy.
Exactly. All right, coming in here from Brandon. Why did you choose Eagle River?
I like how quiet it is here, and there's even less people than Alaska already has, and it's like a self-sufficient community. You almost don't have to go into town. Usually, the only things I've got to go into town to get on my weekends is like if I want to go to Lowe's, but there's trustworthy hardware, there's AIH hardware, and they've got most everything you need. So it's just kind of a quiet little community.
We wanted to be outside of the city because where we were at in Anchorage, it was just super loud all of the time.
We were right next to the airport.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and then we were right next to a highway, so that didn't help. And we wanted peace and quiet. So we're like, okay, well, we're gonna be a little outside of Anchorage, but not too. We didn't like at first we were looking at Wasilla, but I don't have to commute, so I don't have to drive. So I was worried about him.
Yeah, I didn't want to drive that far. So.
Yeah. So we landed in Eagle River, and the moment we drove through it for the first time, we fell in love with it, and it's just like this is home.
Very beautiful views, and there's a lot of really cool trails nearby you can do that are just within throwing distance. So
I find it very, very walkable. There's trails that go everywhere.
It's not as bikeable as Anchorage is, but I guess hiking wise, not too bad.
I mean, not at all. Like I remember, lived in Eagle River, moved out to Wasilla last year around the July timeframe. I'll probably be moving back to Eagle River probably around end of July, August or so. I just had an Airbnb opportunity out here I need to jump on. Long story. Anyway, I'll probably be moving back to Eagle River. But one of the things I like about Eagle River is I literally could walk everywhere. Like I walked to my office and I just had like a church right down the road, at like the grocery store right there. And I would go like an entire week without ever driving the car.
Yeah, it is nice. There's far less traffic and commotion, and good food and good breweries, and yeah.
On super nice days, my favorite coffee shop is just right down the hill. So I'm just like, all right, I'm going to take an hour and I'm going to walk down there and then sit for a minute and then walk back. It's nice.
Yeah, we're very excited for summer to hit and start walking down some of those places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So one more question here, and then we'll get on with our scheduled programming. So coming in from Costa 16 Auto, and what kind of jobs or industry have you settled in Alaska, if you're willing to share?
I work for Alaska Airlines, and I know there's tons of aviation jobs out here at Ted Stevens. My company's hiring. There's other cargo companies that are hiring for all kinds of positions, for mechanics like what I do, but also for like customer service advocates and things like that. I know there's a lot of oil jobs up north, but I don't know too much about that. It's not my area of expertise, but
as far as job opportunities go, you see the hiring signs just about in every establishment you walk into.
Yeah, a lot of places are hiring like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like businesses and stuff are always looking for people.
Now I work remote, so I still work Eastern Standard Time. So I work for an HVAC company, but my day starts off at 4 a.m. and off at 1, so I'm not really into the job industry.
But what I can speak for in aviation, there's tons of jobs for that out here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for that. A number of the people I've worked with recently were right there in that aviation field, so that makes 100% sense. As far as the jobs that are available out there, um, kind of like what they said, there are plenty of opportunities, but it might not be in your specific field right now. If you
Mhm.
have some kind of like hard skills, like you're a mechanic, you're a handyman contractor, something like that, odds are very good you're going to be able to find something within like a couple of days of trying.
Mhm.
If you are, coming in and your skill is like CPA or something like that, you know, the opportunities are going to be there. You're going to have to do some more networking and really kind of dive into the area to really find those opportunities, though.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what were your expectations for winter, and were they accurate?
Yeah, I think the winters here definitely get pretty cold, but the thing I noticed, and I work outside sometimes, and I noticed that it just doesn't seem to be very windy in Anchorage, and I kind of thought that it would be like really, really cold, but also really windy. So it doesn't end up feeling too bad if you dress and prepare for it. You might end up wearing more layers than you anticipate, but I feel like it's pretty manageable, unless you do get that rare windy day. But I've only been here for year and a half, so I don't know if that's normal or not. But I felt like the winters are probably not quite as bad as I had imagined.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be much, much worse. So I thought that there was going to be more snowfall.
It's like that dry cold. I feel like the dry cold is kind of not so bad.
Yeah, I thought the roads were going to be a little less drivable than what they are, but I think my expectations were worse for what I thought than what they actually are.
It's like, were you expecting just a lot more snowfall, or what were you
Mhm.
expecting?
Well, so coming from the state that we're in, if it snowed, it was horrible. It was horrible. There's no road upkeep. There was nothing. Grocery store shut down. You couldn't find groceries anywhere. Here,
Oh, they get
they're
like
like
what we had just yesterday, and the bread aisle would be emptied.
you wouldn't be able to find bread, eggs, and milk, which made no sense to me. But yeah, no, here I was like, oh boy, we're getting snow. I would always like I think our first couple grocery trips, like I dreaded. I was like, we're not gonna be able to find anything. And I walked in there, and it's just normal. So I was
Operations
expecting
continue.
I was expecting a lot worse. So and then the driving conditions, like I don't drive a lot right now, but whenever I do, it's not as bad as what I thought it would be.
There's
So
definitely days.
yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely days where it could be pretty bad.
You gotta be a little more careful, but I was just I think I don't know, I was expecting like I don't know like an apocalypse.
Yeah, it's like you expect like something from the Revenant or something
Right. Well, because
when you're
whenever you ask the internet like, hey, what's the weather like, and you ask anybody on like I don't know, you go to some of these Alaska pages, and some people will be like, don't come up here unless you know how to drive in the snow. It's not for like the faint of heart, and they'll be like, it's really bad. You don't want to move up here. It's too cold, especially if you're used to living in the South. And like people tried to sway us, like, and so the vision that we got at first was just I was like, oh,
It's not for everybody. I mean,
but it's doable.
if you're really cold at first, then it probably will be bad. But I think, Jamin, I think you said in one of your videos before that you'll get used to the cold, and I think that I agree. I think everybody would get used to it,
Especially
being
this.
here long enough, and especially nowadays, I feel like warming layers are so much better than they used to be. Like my work bought us these Carhartt Yukon Extreme jackets, and it's so light and doesn't feel like you're wearing a very heavy jacket, but it's extremely warm. I think that there's something to be said about that.
And you get used to the cold because the temperatures pretty much stay pretty even. There's not like a 30-degree change in one direction or the other.
Oh, that us.
I don't know.
Seem to have lost audio. No.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Okay. So, what was I saying? Yeah, that's right. You guys couldn't hear me. Okay. Can't have anyone remind me.
Miss.
Let's see. Oh yeah, you guys had the weathered patterns with like North Carolina right there with the ocean. So I'm sure that like really threw off all the weather patterns there in the area. And kinda Anchorage is next to the ocean, but not really, just because you've got that little inlet thing that just travels so far to actually get to Anchorage. So realistically, you don't really have the weather patterns getting interrupted by the ocean.
Mm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that wind makes such a difference though. Like, being out in the Matsu Valley, like it's no joke out there sometimes.
I've heard about the valley winds.
Yeah, I mean, got a comment from Chris here, like, yeah, the valley takes all the wind for you. So
Yeah.
that's definitely true.
Yeah.
There is no lie there. Like I had I think the fastest the wind got out here. Okay, I think I lost power one time because of the wind out in the Matsu Valley. I was surprised to hear in Eagle River, you guys actually lost power more than I did this winter. So
We were lucky where
Our-
we're at. We didn't.
Yeah,
we
it was
lost
weird.
once.
Everything where that Fred Meyers is down to Chudiak lost power a few times, but we were fine where we were at. I don't think we lost. Well, we did lose power a couple times, but
I think
a couple times they lost power, and it was just half of Eagle River. It was weird.
yeah, I mean, I've got some investment properties there, so I mean, I got to hear about it every time the power went out. So
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, there's not a lot I can do. I'm just gonna go rushing into the storm with my little toolbox.
Right. Yeah. A little
I don't think
limited
I'm
options there.
not gonna do a whole lot of good. All right. So real quick here, so you guys have kind of lived here for let's see, a little over a year at this point, about a year and a half. So how have you found the cost of living?
It's a bit more. Definitely not as expensive as some cities for sure. And I'll say I don't think it's as much as we thought it was going to be per items. I think we were a little bit more relaxed when we took our first grocery trip. Stuff's a little bit more expensive, but I don't think it's near as bad as what we've been led to believe. Because sometimes some of the information gets conflated. Like some of those villages up north pay a lot of money for basic items, but Anchorage, you kind of have the benefit of having a robust supply line, and I think that kind of keeps prices down. But I guess real estate's a little high, vehicles are a little high, just because it costs a lot more to get vehicles up here, and I guess availability of housing can cause a little bit more expense. But I think most jobs pay a decent amount more to try to compensate for that, it seems, and definitely affordable. There's definitely a lot more expensive places in the country to live, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to second that. That I mean, employers do pay more because the cost of living up here is more. I was talking with somebody who lives in Oklahoma, actually just earlier today, and we're talking about the what he could expect to be renting for his first year if he's just looking at a house, and he was like, "Oh, $3,000. That's a lot." And I was like, "Okay, well, you're also going to be making more, so." You're if you try to like work down in Oklahoma and then live up in Alaska, like it's going to absolutely eat you alive. But if you're working up here, earning the wage here, you're probably going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Stuff's
All right.
the board too. Sometimes we'll go back to the East Coast and we'll feel like we're paying a lot of money for stuff, and then we'll go out to eat and we'll be like, oh, but it's just about as much as we'd spend in Alaska for food, and so some of that comes into play.
Yeah. Well, then you go to places like California, and I'm not sure what's going on there. Like we had a conference that was going on there. I'm not going to bash any particular state. I wasn't pleased to be there though, so we'll leave it at that. But I went there, And apparently they have some new law or rule that says that you can only split the check only maximum 2 ways. So if you have like a big group of people, like you better pray like at least 2 of you have enough on your balance to be okay.
Wow.
But yeah, there was that. But I mean, a lot even there, like the cost of like food and stuff, like seems lower or at least comparable. All right, so we've got a question here from Ashley. What kind of heat are you all using?
We've got baseboard heating with the boiler setup.
Yep. And Ashley, what the baseboards are is you've got these copper pipes that run along run along the bottom of the floor, right at like the bottom of the wall, I should say. And usually they're going to be right under the windows and a couple other sections of the wall too. And you've got the boiler in the garage, if I recall correctly, is where it's usually going to be. And it shoots the hot water through those copper pipes. Obviously, water's not shooting anywhere, it's contained within the pipes, but it warms up the pipes and then that radiates off heat. And it's actually one of the more efficient ways to keep a house warm. And the boiler is usually going to be a lot more predictable and a lot more durable than you're going to find with most other heating sources.
Yeah, we had a couple problems with our boilers. My expansion tank and safety valve went out, and I found it to be very user serviceable. And right down the road, Extreme Heating and Air had all the parts I needed to fix it. They're not super complicated. There's YouTube videos that people go over about parts that go bad, different things you can do to fix it, and that saved us a little bit of money. So I just went on YouTube. What do I need to do? And just threw in a new expansion tank safety valve, and like an hour is back to running. So they're pretty simple when you look at them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good to have that skill set. For me, I would have said, okay, I'm not proud to say this. It took me, no joke, about an hour and a half to fix like the that little flapper in the toilet that like shuts as soon as the water. Yeah, it took me an hour and a half to get that fixed, and even then, like finally, I just got to the point. I replaced the filter valve. I replaced just about everything. Still wasn't working. Finally, I just pulled out the flapper, looked on the reverse side of it. There's this little dial. Turn it a little bit to the left, and that fixed it.
Oh, we live and we learn.
Yeah, I probably would have. I would probably freeze though. I'm always going to call somebody if I have issues with my heat.
Yeah.
But we tried to call and but they're like, oh, we can't get I don't know what company it was. I have no idea. But
Well, we had a home warranty, so we were like, oh, let's just use that because we have it. But I guess everybody else in Eagle River lost heat too, so it was going to be like 5 or 6 days before they said they could make it out to us. And I'm like, YouTube.
we had the fireplace going for quite some time, which only heats the upstairs and only those rooms right there. And but other than that, I think we turned on the heating blankets and stuff until the next morning until we cut the parts. But
I can't speak for every house, but I feel like our house and probably all the others out here too hold heat very well. So even it was probably a full 24 hours before I could fix it, and I think we only lost like 10 degrees or something like that. It wasn't very much. And so I guess it would be good to have an auxiliary form of heating for emergencies,
and it was in the negatives when that happened too.
Yeah, it was during the first big snowstorm, I think.
Oh shoot, y'all got kind of the baptism by fire then, huh?
It was like -3 outside. We don't have heat, but with the house that through the entire
thermostat keep going down. It's supposed to go up.
Yeah, well, I had that happen to me a couple months ago. Like the power went out, and I mean, I've got the wood stove like all set up. I was like, yes, this is my moment. I can shine. I feel totally justified now in this installing this wood stove, and it lasted like maybe 2 hours. I was like, well, okay. I'm back to it just kind of being a nice ambiance for the room.
Right.
All right, so we've got a question here from Brandon. Are home warranties regularly offered and available up in that area? So Brandon, it's in the past, it's been more common than not that the seller would just pay for it, but it's about a $450 expense, and it's becoming less and less common. Luckily for Erica and Sean, we were able to make it happen because they'd been on there for a while. So we had quite a bit more negotiation leverage than if the property was just brand spanking new onto the market. But it's going to kind of depend. I've seen it become less common in the past couple of years just with how competitive it's been. All right. So let's actually talking a little bit about houses. Let's go and tackle this one. So what are the houses like? I mean, you guys are coming in from North Carolina. So I'm assuming the houses are going to be a little bit different. So were there any big differences that really just stood out to you?
That's a good question. I don't think they're not totally different. We're in a split level, and there were split levels in North Carolina too.
But not a lot.
Not a lot, no. I think it was kind of like a '70s thing, and then it maybe went out. A lot of houses that we saw were, well, North Carolina is getting a lot more people moving there, and so it's forcing the development of all these different subdivisions, and so usually a builder like D.R. Horton will come through and just build all these cookie cutter houses, and that's what we lived in before. It's a decent enough house, but it's just one of those vinyl siding, slab foundation houses. All of them kind of look the same. That's a lot of what we saw in North Carolina. And here it seems like not that way. It seems like every house kind of has its own like unique features. I feel like from what I've seen.
Yeah, the big subdivision developments, you really don't see a whole lot of that. You do a little bit in Anchorage, very, very small degree, like Eagle River, like looking at specifically like Powder Ridge, Eaglewood, Parkview Terrace, places like that. But each of the houses are going to be a little bit different. But I mean, obviously, we are building up here for the conditions. So one of the big things that Sean mentioned before, our houses do tend to retain heat better than what you would find in, like North Carolina. Like I went down to Florida just a little bit ago, and I was just kind of walking around like in the Airbnb I was in. I was like, man, something tells me this property would not retain heat very well at all if it suddenly just snapped down to like 40. But yeah, I mean, something else that that really the homes in just Alaska and Eagle River as well are built a little differently is to actually move and sway with the ground when you get any big earthquakes that are coming through. So that really is a big one. Back in the '64 earthquake, like it rumbled through and like pretty much leveled most of Anchorage, like in that one fell swoop. Yeah, I mean, they went and changed a lot of the rules and regulations since then to try to make it a little bit, give us a better fighting chance if that were to happen again. But yeah, that was just such a enormous magnitude kind of earthquake. I'm not really sure many houses would be able to withstand that, regardless what the codes are, because it not only was like a really violent shake, but it also lasted for about 5 minutes. So, yeah. Oh, actually, this is a good one. So, have you guys had any earthquakes in your time in Eagle River so far?
I think we've had a few.
Good ones.
They've been pretty mild, though, I think. The biggest one was just big enough to where I knew it was an earthquake without having to look it up online. Whereas previously it was like, oh, things are creaking. Is that an earthquake? And you look up and like, oh, but no, there was a pretty good one. Well, I guess a few months ago that you didn't have to do that. Well, that was definitely an earthquake.
Yeah, he was upstairs. I was downstairs working. All of a sudden, all of our monitors and started shaking, and my computer shut off because it like wiggled. And, like we have to replace some of the outlets in the house, so it unplugged on my computer, and everything started shaking. I was like, okay, what do I do? Because it was like a bigger one than like what we were used to. Normally, you're like, okay, it's shaking a little bit. It's good. It'll stop in a second. But then we've had a couple decent sized ones that are like. That kind of make you stop and like really think.
Most of them, you could mistake it for creaking in the house.
Yeah, but every now and then you get like that, just that big jolt out of nowhere, and it's like, did we just get hit by a truck or something? Like, what
It
happened?
reminds you that
Yeah, there was one that was really loud. That it was in the middle of the night. We were sleeping, and then it sounded like this really loud bang. It was kind of weird how it happened, and then everything shook for like once or twice, and then it was done. But it woke us up out of a dead sleep. We're like, what the heck was that?
Yeah, an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's something that keeps you on your toes. I mean, I
Mhm.
was kind of talking with somebody about this, and we're talking about the difference between hurricanes and earthquakes. And it's like, well, I mean, the nice thing about hurricanes is at least there's a season for them. Earthquakes literally just happen whenever they feel like it.
It's always earthquake season.
Exactly.
I honestly thought they were going to be because I've never lived in an area where they were too much. Like where I lived at in Oregon was far enough away from California and its earthquake issues, so I didn't really feel them, or if you felt them at all. And then in North Carolina, again, we weren't near the fault line, so we didn't feel where they were north and south of us. So I didn't know what to expect, and it was kind of a little scary at first for me. Because my first one, he was at work and I was in the apartment we were staying in. Everything started like shaking and the doors started rattling. And then our fan that was above the bed in the bedroom. I immediately was off the bed. I was like, I don't really know what to do in this situation. So
I've been told go stand in the doorway, and I'm not sure. I think that's something structurally more sound there, but yeah, if I don't have kids, I have to keep track of. I'm getting outside if it's a really big one.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. They say because we were in the apartment, we were on the top floor, and so they said don't run out of the building in that situation. Stand in a doorway. They said stand in where and don't and if your doorway's on an outside part of your home, don't stand in that. So you're going to be more inside the house. So I said, okay, I don't know how much sense that makes or what that does, but I just followed what online said. I was like, all right, door.
That makes sense. So, quick comment from Talani, and hey, Talani, she says they have larger pantries in the houses up here in Alaska, and yep, I think that actually does check out from what I'm remembering just from having lived in Texas and other places.
I think it depends on the maybe the year of the house too, maybe. Because ours, we don't have a pantry.
But I'm sure houses that do have pantries probably do have bigger ones.
Yeah, they probably are a bit larger. Yeah.
That is true. Well, I think it's also the like the newer stuff too.
Mhm.
I'm noticing like a lot of the new build, like those pantries are pretty prominent in there now too, which um, you know, kind of makes me question that a little bit as to why, because we've actually seen more and more like people eating out than what we did in previous generations. So I'm not sure why the houses built in the 80s have like next to no pantry, and the thing we have nowadays is like big pantries. So
I think it's the influencers online that are gutting out whatever pantries they have and making them bigger to put like all their counters and stuff in there. I blame TikTok.
that's totally it. The builders are spending too much time on TikTok. If you all
Yeah.
actually did your job, maybe we'd have more houses.
Blame TikTok. It's probably its fault for everything.
Well, I meant like the influencing of it because our pantry wasn't large in North Carolina at all. But it's like you watch like DIYers and they're like, let's go knock out a wall and they expand their pantry. So I
Yeah,
blame them.
and I don't watch TV very much, by the way, but occasionally I'll go to the gym and just run on the treadmills, and I've got like my own like own earbud things going on over here, but I'm seeing like all the TVs in front of me, like every other TV has got like some home improvement renovation kind of a show going on right now. So yeah, I guess
Oh yeah.
still a demand for it, by the way. Completely off topic. Okay. So, quick question here. If you could change one thing about Alaska so far, what would it be?
That we have a Chick-fil-A.
Yes, I would totally agree with that.
um, honestly, so for me, nothing. Everything's good for me right now. So he's the one who has to be more out and about and stuff like that. So like if I don't get so I pack his lunches for work, but if I don't get to his pre-meal before work, he'll stop and go eat somewhere. He doesn't have a lot of options for that.
Yep, that definitely does check out. I have seen that. Yeah, I mean we're a little better than what we were a couple decades ago. I will give them that, but yeah, you still don't have quite as many like franchises as what you had before. I'm yeah, realize the other day it's like, okay, well, we don't have a Red Lobster here. We've got Outback Steakhouse, so that's something. But if you just want like good chain restaurant food, I'm not sure if I'm coming across as kind of white trash right now, but
I just thought of one. Shipping. I would change the
honestly,
shipping.
yeah. If I could change one thing, I would agree with that.
Because in the South, or if I go to the lower 48 at all, anywhere we go, I have got to stop at a Hobby Lobby or Home Goods. Those are like my candy stores. And Home Goods will ship up here, but my favorite's Hobby Lobby. They do not ship up here, and they are not up here, so it's like a hassle. If I want something, I have to plan to make a trip.
Some things won't ship at all. Some companies don't even want to bother with having an option to ship to Alaska. And I ordered I homebrew, and so I ordered a setup to homebrew again, and it was going to be an obscene like $350 to have it shipped, the whole setup shipped up here. And I ended up going through one of those shipping consolidation services that they'll gather all the parts of your order together. You just ship them to Seattle, their address in Seattle, and then they'll barge them up. And it was like 160, but still, it hurt my soul. I was used to free next day shipping all the time, no matter what, in North Carolina, and you definitely don't get that here.
I shop a lot online, so yes, if I find something I like and you can't get it up here, that's one thing I would change.
Right. That's definitely the best option for what I would change.
yeah, like if you're I feel like if you're kind of that more of a shopaholic where you're just going to be ordering a ton of stuff online and like you just can't stop yourself, I feel like your ability to control is probably going to increase when you move to Alaska just because anything you buy is going to take about 2 weeks. So you just have to think, well, am I going to like this thing in 2 weeks? I imagine it would probably help. I don't know. I imagine it would help.
I'm not
You'll
a
become
shopaholic, but the packages have gotten a lot less.
you'll become more of a patient person, and you'll save money.
Yeah.
Put a good spin on it.
So true. So true. All right. Got a question here from Ashley. You probably don't get tornadoes much, do you?
I haven't seen any since we've been here.
No, we haven't been here that long. I don't think we'd be the best to answer that, but I don't think so, right?
Yeah, I've yet to hear of one in Alaska. Like I mean, obviously there's always a first, but as far as I know, we've never had a tornado up here. All right, folks. Well, we got a couple more questions here, and then we'll start wrapping it up here. So if you do have any questions, comments about what it's like living in Alaska, how to move up here, all that good stuff. This is getting close to your final call, so I'll make sure you get those in the comment section, and we'll knock those out before we're done. So this is just kind of the flagship question we get all the time about what it's when people are thinking about moving up here. What are the pros and the cons? So for you guys so far, just in your experience, what are really the pros and cons of living in Alaska?
Definitely number one is the scenery. I mean, everywhere you look could be off a National Geographic. Yeah, that's definitely the biggest pro. Very minimal traffic. Not very many people. You go into a store, it's not very crowded at all.
We're actually starting to recognize some of the same people. If we go to the store, it's just like you're starting to recognize who you see in rotation. You may not know their names, but you definitely you see the same people.
People are very friendly, I've noticed. Mm-hmm. People we've had to interact with, very friendly, very community centered. Like we joined a church and down in Ocean View, and they welcomed us with open arms, and everybody's kind of been like that we've encountered. Mm-hmm. I kind of like the idea of being so close to wilderness. Like you're also very close to everything you need, but you go down the road a little bit, and you're in just nothing but but free air, and it's very easy to get away. Con, probably the same cons you hear. The cost of living's a little higher, which, as we discussed, didn't end up being that bad. Definitely not a deal breaker by any means. And shipping is definitely a big one. It could be expensive to leave the state too. That's probably the top 3 cons, I would say.
Yep. I think that's about it. And then I guess personally, some cons for us is that we're so far away from family. It takes we got to really plan to go back home. So.
Yeah, I mean, just going home and visiting is not something you really do on accident here in Alaska. Like it takes quite an effort to get out of the state. All right, outstanding. So we got some questions here. So let's go ahead and jump into these real quick. Or wait, hold on. I think we've got. No, let's get to some questions real quick. So for those of you who are watching, if you've been holding out, you got a burning question, you've just been shy about throwing it out there, now's a good time to just throw it out there. So question here from Brandon, what's something you can't get there that you do not miss?
Can't get here, but I don't miss. I don't know. That's a hard one. You have any?
Something I can't get but don't miss.
I don't know. I'm having trouble with that one.
Can't think of anything physical. The only thing, well, not like
there's
physically
things I can't get that I do miss.
That's a good question because I'm trying to think this through now too. I can't get here, but I don't miss. You know what? I would say there's a lot of like really nice cars and everything in other states, and that's really something you don't see a whole lot of up here in Alaska. So I mean, yeah, that's not necessarily something that I really miss, like just seeing on the road.
Yeah, that's you don't really see any of that. I
If
guess
somebody does have a nice car, you can't tell from all the silt and dirt on it.
I mean, it really is the truth. I mean, the other thing too, if you get a really nice car, like I would be like nonstop, like worrying about it the entire time because there's just so many loose rocks and everything kicking up that I mean, it's gonna get a crack in the windshield so fast.
You can't have a clean windshield.
I guess kind of taking that question kind of from looking at it from another angle is like, so in most big cities that you go to in the lower 48, you've got all these massive highways and bridges, and then it takes you 2 hours to get 10 miles down the road. But you can't get that here, and I do not miss it.
You can't get traffic and you don't miss it.
So I mean, the looking at the rush hour here, and then I was just in North Carolina last week. So looking at rush hour here, and it might take you an extra 5 minutes to get somewhere at 5 o'clock. But it's not that bad comparative to living in a massive city where we were in, and then you've got all these intersections that go to the different bridges that loop on top of each other, and then 5 o'clock you're just stay at work an extra 30 minutes and then you might miss it, or you just I don't miss traffic, so it's something you can't get and I don't miss.
Yeah, I mean I really got to second that because we had I was in Florida just a little bit ago, kind of driving around, and it kind of made me laugh because just going a couple miles was going to take like 15 minutes easily, like every time. And it's like in Alaska, you kind of just factor in you're going to be going about 65, 70 anywhere you're going, like for the most part, uninterrupted by traffic.
Right.
Yeah, where I was staying, so where we used to live in North Carolina, so where I was staying was just a couple streets over from where that was. And I would take one highway to work every day. And if I didn't leave at a precise time, It would take me an hour to get there, and it was only 13 miles from our house, and it would take me an hour to get to work every day. And then I have now same. So this time it's a little bit worse. I feel like there's more people from where back in that city. I feel like there's a lot more people because it took me an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to get 13 miles down the road because you're stop and go, and it's just too congested. So I definitely don't miss any of that. It gives me anxiety now every time I have to go back. I'm like, I'm not used to these people.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone says everywhere that everyone in their state drives really crazily. And that's, I mean, we've got a claim to that as well, but
There's a whole page about it.
there's a whole page to it. Yeah, you just got to make sure you're just hang out in the right lane and just let them go. Just let them go, do whatever they do, and hopefully they don't slow everyone down if they get into a wreck. Like that's just always kind of my pet peeve. I know
Hopefully you
it
don't
sounds
see them on top.
yeah, well, it sounds terrible, and I'm gonna sound like a jerk instantly for saying this, but up here, somebody gets into a wreck, slows the entire highway down, like in the wintertime. Your first knee-jerk reaction is usually not any kind of sympathy or empathy. It's like, oh, you idiot, you were driving recklessly, you got into like you put yourself in the embankment, and now half the state is being backed up literally on the highway because you're acting a fool.
There's only one highway in and one way out.
Yeah, you don't have many options for that. So in
No,
one
not at
respect,
all.
you get no traffic. But on the other hand, if there's anything that happens on the Glen, you're forget it.
Yep. You're gonna be stuck. You can't just get off and exit and reroute. No, Google's gonna be like, can't reroute. You're stuck.
That's yeah, you're in this for the long haul. And like during the earthquake we had back in 2018, our bridge got shook so bad that you couldn't actually like drive across it for I think it was like a week or so. So they had to go check it, evaluate it, make sure it was all good. But yeah, for that reason, like our transportation logistics system around here is actually like a case study in a lot of civil engineering courses and saying what a precarious like transportation system looks like. Just because like you take out that one bridge, that one road, and about 2/3 of the state is isolated.
Yeah.
So it's not great. All right, got a question here from Quarter Sister. Are you doing gardening?
Yes. So as far as the bears, again, we haven't really we're seeing reports of them like right up the road, but we haven't encountered any gardening. I have a brown thumb, not a green thumb, but I am trying gardening this year. I'm excited. So
we moved in October, so we haven't had a chance to enjoy a summer in our new home. So
yeah, I'm just waiting to put everything in the ground right now. But we do have everything is fenced in because I think I'd be more upset if. So I've had my first successful sprouting season for gardening. I've attempted this in the past, and I would be more upset if it got eaten by a moose before it could actually go anywhere than I would be concerned about the bears right now.
Yeah, I mean those moose are just absolute menaces too. I don't think people really appreciate how big they are and how easily they can step right over your 6-foot fence like it's nothing.
Exactly, especially with the snow, and they just climb over. But
they're very, very tall.
Yeah, I've seen that bears can climb over fences also pretty easily. And there's some pretty unique videos about that somebody had like their camera set up and pointed at their backyard because it's where their opening to their gate was, and they weren't home, and they said, well, this happened while we were at work, and a mom and her two cubs climbed up over their fence and were in their backyard. I said, I don't know what I would do in that instance. Be like, all right, well, I'm gonna attempt to get out of here, but yeah, no, gardening, I'm gonna try that because a lot of people say that if you grow your own vegetables and stuff, it might help a little. And I'm gonna get into canning if they've got if I've got an overproduction, but a lot of people say that might actually help offset kind of the cost of living because now you're growing your own, and if you can it, then you can store it.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it sounds you're speaking like an Alaskan already. So for Monica, random, but can you get fresh shrimp or seafood?
I don't think I've had shrimp since I've been here, but the seafood's been excellent. The sushi, I thought, was very good.
Yeah, and there's definitely, if you go out to eat, from what we've seen from the summertime to the wintertime, if you order seafood, it's quite a bit more expensive. So I'm going to assume it's more fresh in the summer than what it would be in the winter. But
Yeah,
I'm not sure how to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, usually fresh seafood, probably your best bet is going to be to go catch it on your own. Which I mean, you can do that up here, so that's really cool. But yeah, for stuff like shrimp, I'm really not sure. Now, salmon, yeah, you can catch that all day long. That's going to be pretty simple. Brian, from Mr. Brandon here, did you have to spend a lot of money to get the proper clothes for the winter? And can you find good gear by thrifting?
I don't think you have to spend a lot of money on proper winter clothes. Like that Yukon Extremes jacket I got from work, I think was only like $200, which is kind of expensive, but it's a good jacket that I've been using pretty much all season. Um, yeah, but you can also go thrifting. There's all the very good brands are here, so I imagine that the thrift stores would be pretty packed with good brand name gear.
And pretty warm too.
Yeah.
I leave the house every once in a while, but I think throughout the entire winter, except for whenever I think the week or two that we were really in the negatives, I've honestly kind of hung out in a sweatshirt the entire, like, anything, as long as it's a sweatshirt and I like, as long as it's, I don't know, kind of soft. I'm happy. I'm warm.
Yeah, so. Working outdoors, I like those extra tough boots. I have like an insulated, they're not extra tough brand, but I have like an insulated pair of waterproof boots like that, and I'll usually wear those with flannel line pants because I don't really like thermal underwear. It doesn't really, I don't like the constricting of it.
Right.
So I like the flannel line jeans, and then I'll have a hoodie and then that Carhartt, and that usually does me just fine.
And I just wear jeans and my boots and a sweater. So if we go out and about, we bought really big jackets right before we came out here, and we attempted to use them once here in Anchorage, but it wasn't cold enough to do so without overheating. But I think it's going to depend on, like, for proper winter clothes, I think it might depend on like where you're at.
Well, how long you're spending
Yeah.
outside, what you're doing. Like if you're doing activities like I was going fat tire biking, and fat tire biking you get pretty hot pretty quick, and so less is more. But when I work outside at the airport, I tend to bundle up a little bit more because you're kind of stationary working on stuff, and you tend to get a little cold faster when you're not moving so much. So
gloves are great. Like I go for walks and stuff, and in the wintertime, like gloves were great, but again, like you the more you're moving, you're gonna warm up. And but I think like our really super warm layers that we bought, we think we used them in Fairbanks, but we haven't had to use them too much here.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I don't think you have to wrap up. I don't think you have to spend that much money. Not a ton. I have a big Raise does. They do like tent sales all the time. You get really good deals on that kind of stuff.
Yep. I mean, that's all true. Really, if you're going into like the super, super cold stuff, one of the best things you can do is just get like an outer shell, like have all your layers and then get some kind of an outer shell that's very resistant to the wind. And, that goes a long way. By shell, usually it's just like a really good, decent raincoat or something like that. And it's not going to by itself keep you warm, but it does keep like a lot of that air out. So it kind of protects all those layers too. I was able to go running in like negative 20 degrees during the winter time. And I'm not going to say that was pleasant, but I mean, I survived. So did what it was supposed to do. All right. So got a couple comments from Chris here to take us home. So number one, things are spread out in Alaska. So if you're going to be going for those longer drives, it's pretty good to have a fuel efficient car. And I would have to agree with that. Went from a BMW to a Prius And I got to say, I'm loving the 55 miles to the gallon. So that's awesome. All right. And we've got one more question here from Chris. So are you Alaska for life now?
That's definitely the plan. I mean, you never know what life's going to throw at you, because we didn't even expect to be here at all ever anyway. But yeah, that's the plan. We love it here. We're able to visit family, when we need to, and we both like our job situation up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
The plan initially was to give it a 1-year go, just to see what we thought.
Well, we were like, well, if we don't like it, we could always move back,
Mhm.
kind of deal.
I think we lasted it was 4 months before we started looking at houses and getting the idea. So, but yeah, for definitely for life. So we can help it.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear, and it's good to have you guys right there in that area too. So you're pretty much neighbors.
Right.
All right. Well, Sean, Erica, I really do appreciate you guys just taking the time to kind of share your experience and what it's been like living in Alaska so far. For folks that are looking at making the move up here, that kind of feedback is really useful for them. So I do appreciate you being generous with your time and what your experiences have been. For everyone else, thank you very much for jumping onto the live stream. And if you do have any future questions about what it's like moving to Alaska, absolutely feel free to reach out to me, and we'd be happy to answer as many of your questions as we can. Whether you're looking at buying something or just looking at moving, renting, and getting yourself established. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in a couple weeks for the next live stream.
Have a good one.